The gods of Genshin Impact are some of the most fascinating aspects of Teyvat's lore, and with the Sumeru Archon quest finally dropping spicy hints of the Dendro Archons and the old gods of Sumeru, it's time that I dive into the tale of power, mania, obsession, and destruction. Today, welcome to the story of the Scarlet King, a story of a god that lost everything to his own madness. I will be compiling all of the story points that I've found across the lore and summarizing them for your easy perusal. But I will say this, I might miss some notes, especially since we're so early into the Sumeru chapters, and we're still in 3.0. The story of the Scarlet King and the Eremites will surely be emphasized further with the reveals of 3.1 and 3.2, so let this video just be an introduction, not a full summary. Anyway, let's begin. The Scarlet King, or Al-Amar, is the Lord of the Deserts and is known as one of the three god kings of Sumeru. His domain is the sands, and not only was he respected by the Eremite tribe, he also garnered the respect from the other two tribes that are presumably under the fate of the gods of the flowers and the god of the trees. Al-Amar was the ruler of the Jinni, which in Islam are spirits of intelligence who were created by God prior to humans but are unseen by humanity. There are good and evil jinn who are able to affect humans with God's will. When the desert kingdoms were still enjoying their prosperous golden age under Al-Amar's rule, his power descended upon every inch of the land like the scorching sun, and he had a grand authority over the deserts and was remarkably respected by the other gods. Ancient stone tablets record that he turned his power into 7 rays of blinding light, or 7 pillars, which he granted equally and mercifully to everyone. No one was neglected, nor was anyone discontented. He was a powerful entity, but also was deeply loved by his citizens, something that was evident with the loyalty of the Eremite faction in the game. One curious theory that I have is that he's a reference to Seth, due to the title of being a sky god and a desert god. According to the lore, Al-Amar controlled the winds whistling through the deserts, the dunes turned bright silver by moonlight, and the 1001 jinn who hid within the night and the calls of the owl. But I feel like this theory might be incorrect because this is the only connection they have that I could find. As for his Lemmigaton name, there's none confirmed, or if he even had one to begin with. The king had 3 loyal retainers that were mentioned in the Lay of Al-Amar: the Goat King, the Ibis King, and the Crocodile King. The sacred ibis was worshipped and was a hieroglyphic sign for the god Thoth. Thoth was the god of writing and knowledge and was frequently portrayed as an ibis-headed man. The god Num was associated with water and procreation and was represented as a ram with horizontal twisting horns of a man with a ram's head. The crocodile god Sobek was a powerful deity worshipped from the Old Kingdom during the Roman period. Regardless, these 3 retainers will play a role in the latter part of the story. But let's return to the Lord of the Deserts. The Lord of the Deserts was an oath-sworn friend of the goddess of flowers and the greater Lord Rukkhadevata, often partaking in banquets and gatherings with them. The Lord of the Deserts also harbored affections for the god of flowers, for according to the lore, he reveled in her immense charm and grace. The 2 friends even made a city that would be known as the City of Amphitheaters, which carried the meaning of City of the Moon Maiden. The 3 of them were very close, and it was evident in how they ruled Sumeru, but that would soon change with the passing of the god of flowers. The death of the Lord of Flowers was allegedly due to the malice of the burning sun and yellow sand. But little did the gods know that her death was willing and wholehearted. The Lord of the Deserts did not know this and was struck with horrible grief. The ignorant Lord of the Deserts was never aware of her reasoning and was misguided by his affections, plunging him into unparalleled madness. The descent of Al-Amar was slow but steady. Laws began changing, and the law eventually shackled its own people. The ideals of governance were twisted by deep sorrow, and the dignitaries became arbiters. Until one day, the Lord's madness finally overtaken him. He became mesmerized by this idea of a golden dream, where no one shall have to ingest a drop of bitter water, or no one should have had scars carved upon their faces due to sorrows and partings. Where in this new world, everything shall be good. But it is as the sages say, a mere thought can yet often bring forth calamity, if it is from the undisguised melancholy and madness of a king. And this mania would be furthered by 3 retainers. The Goat King proposes that the endless power and wisdom of this land can build you a palace that surpasses the heavens, and it shall bring your people a prosperous future. The Ibis King said, The punishment of 1,000 years past brought the downfall of wisdom and history. The Crocodile King said, "The greater the authority, the greater the emptiness. The greater the wisdom, the greater the sorrow. Forget the delusions of the void." With a third attempt of persuasion by the 3 retainers, the Lord of the Desert relented, and the unfortunate citizenry would have their destinies chained by their God King's choice. Thus came the calamity that engulfed the Desert Kingdom. Al-Amar built a huge maze for his kingdom, before trapping himself within it in search of forbidden knowledge and an elixir with which he might abandon his mortal form. According to the legends of the desert dwellers, in just one night, the kingdom of wisdom and power was buried by the sands of retribution. They say Al-Amar separated his mind from his flesh and bone, placing it within the corridors, stairways, doorways, and beams that crawled eternally into the depths. Thus did the minds of millions merge into one, a lone soul that would eventually succumb to madness. They say that when the night came, the desert quaked, and the walls of Al-Amar's royal city collapsed. 1,001 pillars trembled before the gale, and the bulls and the griffins that once stood proudly atop them, gazing down at the lifeless dunes, now reluctantly fell into its gilded embrace. Countless people, sage or fool, hero or coward, all of them had vanished within the sandstorm that night. The lucky survivors fell into eternal silence. It's said that they were made blind and mute as punishment for their sin of benefiting from forbidden knowledge. The sages say that trying to keep knowledge for yourself is ignorance, and that the punishment for ignorance is ignorance itself. And so, Al-Amar's kingdom was built and destroyed by his own hand, a lord of folly who destroyed his own kingdom. That is the tale of the Scarlet King. The tale of the Lord of the Desert is one of tragedy, and honestly, the most haunting tale of a god that I've heard in a good while. It not only displayed the sheer power that a god can hold if it chose to enact violence upon its own people, but also how fragile a person's mind can be when faced with grief. He never began as a power-hungry authoritarian or a dictator that wanted to rule his nation with an iron fist, but he became one in the end, nevertheless. And anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me.